jazz, like when you can feel the vibrate. That's really how music is supposed to be experienced. Live, in a room, in a space where you can feel the vibrations. I think that when you put something onto a recorded medium, it's a good reference. But you've never really experienced music unless you've been in the room when it's being made. My name is Adam Ledbetter. I'm the musical director in Adam and Kizzie, as well as a rapper, producer, keyboard player, composer, songwriter. You know, when the slaves came to America, the earliest musical forms that we had that were documented would have been like field hollers and work songs and spirituals. And these musical styles eventually gave way to the blues and gospel. And then from there, boogie woogie, early jazz, a lot of those New Orleans musicians ended up in Chicago. Louis Armstrong, Sidney Bechet was there at one point. Bebop became a thing, and that's small group jazz, and it's more black pride in it. There's more intellectualism, there's more self-determination. It's not just entertainment music, this is art music now. From there, Miles Davis becomes one of the most important figures of jazz. He develops cool jazz, he develops modal jazz. He's at the crux of every new development in jazz, with the exception of free jazz, which was mostly credited to Ornette Coleman, who came out with The Shape of Jazz to Come in 1959. And then you have the avant-garde and John Coltrane and Charles Mingus and Pharoah Sanders and all of these people. At that point, jazz kind of splits in a million different directions. Now there's all these different ideological shifts, and the word jazz becomes important. How do we define it? What is it? This isn't jazz, this is jazz. And what a lot of black artists are saying at the time is that we don't like the term jazz at all. We never liked it. It was a term that white people gave the music to denigrate it, to keep it subjugated, to deny it the genius level of input that they were coming up with. And in a lot of ways, jazz picked up where classical music ended. And it also put improvisation back into the music as an important element, which used to be the case with classical music. One of the things I find really interesting about all of this is that every major musical innovation that's happened in this country came from poor black and brown kids in the slums. My wife and I, we do a program that talks about that, but also shows the socio-political climate that these musics were developed in. Because it's a really interesting juxtaposition when you consider American music being the most influential cultural music that exists in the world ever, you know, by a large margin. Everyone's taking from this, everyone's adopting different aesthetics from this music, and the people who are making it they're always second-class citizens. They're forgotten about. They can't access a way to benefit from it, even though they're the creators of it. Yeah, so Adam and Kizzie, we're a husband and wife team, and we've done 3 albums, the Book of EEDO series to date. We're signed with Rope-A-Dope Records in Philadelphia, and our whole musical concept we call EEDO, which is short for freedom. And it's an ongoing experiment because what we found when we came together was that we had disparate musical backgrounds and training, and we wanted to find a way to marry and infuse all of those things together while still being true artistically to what we do. So we found that by not accepting a genre, but by accepting all genres that we're interested in simultaneously, then we can have an expression that's cohesive and honest for us. So we call that music EEDO. It's kind of like musical gumbo, jazz, soul, gospel, funk, classical, rock and roll, you know, disco. It's all in it.
Straight bars like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but I digress. Let me bring it to the reason you are being tutored. On behalf of the Sharitas who be beaten sooner than you can scream a boomer sooner while you eat your hooters. Free to believe your rumors, creative free assumers who think it's ruder for me to speak on behalf of the taquigas who will save the sewers.
On behalf of the Shaniquas began with the lyrics. It was just free-form thought. And the song took the form of being really a tribute to black women. And so my life, I've always been surrounded by black women and have admired them. At some point during the creative lull between the Book of EEDO Volume 2 and Volume 3, we attended the court trials for Daniel Holtzclaw. Daniel Holtzclaw was an Oklahoma City police officer who was accused of basically being a serial rapist. And so he was working a beat in Eastside, Oklahoma City, and targeting black women with sketchy pasts, is one way to put it. You know, women who had been involved in prostitution or drugs. And it was really a striking experience for me because everything that went down in those court proceedings happened in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And being mindful of the fact that there are all these black women that I know from that area, from that era, that meant so much to me, it just hit home in a particular way.
And on behalf of all the Keishas who done picked the cotton tees you rock while being clueless, stop with the excuses. You ought to greet a queen with peace, she ought to be your ruler. She brought you teas and diamond rings, she taught you chic maneuvers while singing blues and R&B and rock. She brought the beat of bop and pop, believe it, music often cops a deep influence, but often nods to blonde retrievers, copying off our queens absconding with our divas moolah.
And in that song, I'm trying to tell a chronological story as well about how black people have gotten where we are and how black women have really been the ones who have guided us, and to show that a lot of the cultural things that we identify as black, or the music, you know, that we produce, being, you know, black music or inspired by great black musicians, a lot of times it's been women who have really, they're always the unsung heroes, but they've actually in a lot of ways been the heroes. They're the bearers of the culture. And also there's the more subtle juxtaposition of rap traditionally being a vehicle to debase women, in particular black women. So with that song, I specifically wanted to do a rap that's about uplifting black women. The cool thing about music, and especially improvised music, is everything that exists in the room influences the expression. So even if you're just an audience member, if you weren't there, it would be different. For one, I mean, just on a physics level, the acoustics would be different. It would sound different, even if it wasn't perceivable, you know. But also just the spirit of the people in the room. Everything gets mixed in, and it causes these moments to happen. And there's nothing like it.